Good morning. Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak on Citizen Television. Thank you for staying with us here on the broadcast. Of course, we welcome your contributions towards the tail end of this broadcast. We'll sample your feedback on the Twitter hashtag Daybreak at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. The front page of the Standard says why Raila called off Jamhuri Day rally and faced with a reluctant public battling the high cost of living because of the economic situation. An opposition reading from different scripts and pressure from the international community. Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition political party leader Raila Odinga is forced to cancel a protest rally planned to coincide with the December 12th National Day celebrations that will be presided over by President William Ruto at the Nyayo National Stadium. Also on the front page, mending fences with Western Kenya. That story is further highlighted on page number 4 of President William Ruto, who pledged to revamp the sugar sector and revival, which topped his agenda yesterday, and the goodies to Western Kenya. He was accompanied by a whole host of leaders, including the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, Sports CS Ababu Namwamba, and his health counterpart, who were in the county of Kakamega with the president yesterday. With me in the studio on my far right is Felix Jalango, the Member of Parliament representing Langata constituency. Thanks for your time. Good morning. Honorable Member of Parliament Abdullahi Alas is a commentator on governance and political issues in the country and also public policy analyst. Good morning. Njeri Maina is the only lady, so she is sandwiched between the gentleman, the countywoman MP representing Kirinyaga County. Thank you for making time. And Arnold Maliba is public policy analyst, and these are the views of the young people as to their perspective and to the developments in the country. May I begin with you, Arnold? A lot of issues in regards to what might have prompted the cancellation of the parallel Jamhuri Day celebrations that were planned to be held at the Jacaranda grounds by the Azimio coalition political party. I mean, the economy has been an issue which has been at the center of all the concerns Kenyans have heard, not to this government, not to the previous government, but the other governments as well. I mean, what do you think might have been the major reason which prompted Azimio to call off the protest, the parallel rally that they were planned to hold on the 12th next week on Monday?
I think, first of all, it's actually a very wise decision by the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga to actually call off those particular activities for the simple reason that, number one, there's fatigue. If you looked at even the turn-up last time when they were in Kamkunji, that is not the old Raila we've known. There is literally fatigue across, we've been politicking for the last 2-3 years. We had BBI in place, and then we've had an electoral year, and we've not even settled. So a little bit, there's the fatigue. You can actually feel it. Secondly, it's also not quite the right time because for the last 2-3 years, we've really gone through a hard time. COVID has been here. The economy is not doing well. Quite a number of things have really not they've not really been fixed. So I think whoever advised the right Prime Minister, the right Honorable Prime Minister to actually call this off, really did the right thing. And he did the right thing because, honestly, we can actually move this to a right time. Also, if you want to put this particular government in check, the truth is that you cannot even blame a single harvest on this particular regime because we did elections in August. Members of Parliament, for example, have not even received their first tranche of CDF. We still are thinking, is it going to go in? Will it not work? So much is not in place. Counties have not even had a number of counties are just swearing in their CCs, so they're putting in their cabinets. The chief officers are still being interviewed. So when you put the country in a spin, it's the borderline, feeling like it's not very patriotic. This particular move is quite patriotic of him, and it needs to be lauded because it's not the right time. Okay. Yeah.
Actually, a blend of many things, and the head of state and the former prime minister might be meeting in Washington because the former prime minister has been invited in his capacity as the envoy for infrastructure representing the African continent. But Felix, may I understand why Azimio called off the rallies? Because we saw a presser yesterday suddenly from Opiyo Wandayi, but there are no specific major things that were mentioned. Why do you think you have your party called off the rally?
Thank you so much. First of all, I'm very sad that the rally was called off because we were very ready. If he's talking about the turnout at Kamkunji the other day, that was a very good turnout for a Wednesday, definitely. And Jamhuri Day would have been even much bigger. First of all, the things we were planning on that day, we had a full-fledged band and celebration. Everything that was going to happen at Nyayo Stadium was the same thing that would happen here. We had our whole Azimio Youth Brigade in full uniform, and the Prime Minister was supposed to do a full guard of honor and the full celebration. And they knew very well that if we had a parallel rally celebration the other day, it would have outshined what the president was doing. But it's okay. It's been cancelled, and we are good to go. But also, even as we talk about the 100-day, this regime having not harvested anything or has nothing to show, we are questioning the things that they say they will be able to do in 100 days, you see? So you see, it's just not about a political acclamation out there in the wild, but you come and again start asking. You said you'll be able to do this in 100 days, like the cost of living was supposed to come day. The president is in a book saying that nikiweka Biblia chini tu, bora niweke tu Biblia chini, things will change, you understand? So it's also not in order to just say that, you know what, this government still has a lot to go. There are things that they're already doing. So it's good to put them in check. And there's no time to put any government in check than now, immediately. The pressure should be there from now.
Okay, as a member of parliament, or as members of parliament of the ODM party and by extension the Azimio coalition party, were you consulted on the cancellation?
Yes, we were consulted. Because
what were the reasons specified?
Yeah?
What were the specific reasons that were specified?
There's a lot of it. Some that I'm not able to say here, but there was a lot. There was a lot, but the word was we've cancelled. There's a lot of discussion going on around it. But we will resume soon. With the public consultations. Yes.
Abdullah, from governance perspective, I mean, what's your reading to what's happening? Is it because it was from a consultative forum that they said will inform the parallel Jamhuri Day celebrations at Jacaranda grounds? I mean, is it the path to accountability? Because that's what the government of the day, the president, called for. Check on us, he said, and the opposition said, that's what we are doing. What's your reading from governance perspective?
Thank you, Ayub. First of all, let's start from the right of the right honourable member to picket. He has the right to do whatever he wants in terms of either demonstration or picketing. Now, cancellation, we are told that they might have been, you know, and some of these things, they're always background discussions. Raila is the party leader of one of the oldest party, ODM, with the second majority in parliament, leading an Azimio. So the issue of saying that they calling off has two meanings. In the Standard today, you've seen, I'm sure the international community is involved. I'm sure people representing the president himself on the backside may be involved. But what is important is that currently the president and Right Honorable Raila Odinga are leading a nation of 53 million Kenyans. 7 million people voted for Ruto, another 6+ voted for Raila, another 8 did not vote. This is one country. So this idea of just reducing the discussion of the country to only two persons or two people is missing the point. I mean, my brother talked about the government did not harvest much. I mean, Ruto promised in the 100 days on, I think, 7th of July, before the election, about, you know, the judges, which he did. Then we had about the state capture, which he did. He talked about then the sports fund, women in cabinet, which was 50%. Then that did not happen. I mean, it was less than 50%. Mombasa Port was achieved. Hustler Fund is now here. Some people are skeptical. The job description between the deputy president and, you know, Musalia Mudavadi. So there are a lot of things that are happening. Action on corruption, funds for counties, cost of living. I think President Ruto needs to read Article 132 of the Constitution.
Which says?
Which talks about the functions of the president. He has finished, we have finished the politics of election and political parties. Now we are in the politics of economics, where the president needs to work on policies that will rejuvenate. Last August was one of the worst months we had in this country. Even people who are earning 6-figure salary are struggling. So the president needs to put you know, as he said, the Bible is down. And I'm sure in the State House, he has a pulpit section where he does his church stuff. Yes, Kenya is a country that is Human Development Index 153 out of the possible 191 in the world. We are 16 in Africa. In terms of work or employment, Kenya formal sector only employs 10%. The public sector takes about 250,000 people. 80% of Kenyans are people who wake up at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. Okay. What should worry the president is not, you know, this idea of addressing us from on top of a car in Kibra or Kirigoya or currently Kamen. No, that's not what we want. We want the president to sit in State House, talk to Kenya National Bureau of Standard Director, get information, talk to his cabinet secretaries. How do we improve this? All right. That is the question that we need to have, not Raila, Ruto. We had that for the last 10 years.
The tedious and campaign period. Njeri, what's your reading into this? Because, I mean, the calling off of the parallel Jamhuri Day celebrations, which was to coincide with the national Jamhuri Day celebrations that the president is to preside over on Monday. I mean, and generally, the opposition, what's your reading from the Kenya Kwanza's perspective?
I think, let's call it as it is. Obviously, they knew they had no numbers, and Kenyans are tired. Kenyans are thinking about their next meal. They're thinking about how we can revigorate the economy and how they can better their lives. And at this point, it hasn't been even more than 4 months before the president took over power. So I believe what my good friend Jalango was saying is what our good Chief Justice would call hot air. They knew that they would not have any numbers. It would have been humiliating for them to call for any adverse celebrations of the Jamhuri Day. And at the end of the day, we just got accounting officers for the government, right? I think people are forgetting that this government is not even, has not even gotten a foothold per se of the government. So you cannot say that we are not performing. I believe I saw Jalango when the president was launching a housing program in Langata, which is his constituency. So I don't understand when they say that he's not working. We have seen him launch other projects. We've seen him on IT. We've seen agriculture, the Hustler Fund, that now they're telling Kenyans not to pay. And good Kenyans. Because if Kenyans default on the Hustler Fund, if the Hustler Fund fails, it is us who will fail as a nation. So I cannot believe that any leader who has good intentions for this nation would actually stand on a podium and ask people not to pay money that will help us run this country. Okay, but in your case, then you read the fatigue, as mentioned by Maliba, and the lack of numbers that was to prop up their numbers at Jacaranda grounds. But Felix does, of course, read other things. He says as members of parliament consulted as to why they called off. And Arnold, then I come to you still on the same. I mean, would the cost of living crisis in the country be a consequential one on both ends of the divide? Because if you call for rallies and Kenyans are starved in regards to lack of jobs or unemployment, the state of the economy, the value of the shilling in their pocket, which continues to dip, and then you have a government that is planning to reboot the economy after or post-COVID-19 pandemic, and the path to prosperity, the promise thereof made. I mean, the consolidation. When will the Kenyan people understand that this is a process politicians are in charge of, and if they are not going to have the hawk-eyed eye on what they are doing, then their expectations might not be met?
I think Kenyans so far have realized that they just don't follow politicians blindly. One, you will realize that there was a lot of itching, especially on the Azimio side, after elections to go to the streets. There were even tweets that were put up by officials from Azimio side and individuals, consequential individuals on that particular end. And then they tested the waters and felt like this wasn't going to pick up. So, from where we are, first of all, I must actually say that you cannot blame any harvest on William Ruto. If you are a farmer, even a rudimentary farmer, you will know that for 2-3 months, there is no crop in this country. at least on the staple of what we call our staple food. That actually matures in 2-3 months. Policies that they've put in place in this particular financial year, William Ruto is not even in charge of any financial year. So it is good to actually come out for purposes of argument and speaking out and say that, of course, there are promises they made. And, you know, politicians, including myself, do campaign in prose, but when it comes to implementation, they do that in poetry. So it's easy to speak about 100 days. And we have got quite a number of them here. If you were to ask Jalango, for example, what did he tell the people of Langata and what has he done?
But isn't that not then unhealthy in a democracy when what you promise isn't the reality? I mean, admittedly so, as a politician, you are saying that.
Because, first of all, statecraft, this thing called government or gov-amen, is actually a very difficult thing. It's easy. When guys are out here, it's easy for them to criticize. And I am so sure that if you met him in his private space, he will tell you that he's learned a few things that he wouldn't say if he goes back. That he actually now knows things a little bit different. That's the truth. That you can actually make promises. And the Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Prime Minister himself, has been a man who understands these things. That's why when I look at this story, first of all, but if you read this story, it's a 400-word story, a very light one. Typically, this one is actually a clickbait. The story is empty. It has nothing substantial. It's actually talking about legislators scratching their heads, not knowing what had actually befallen them. But it's logical. Okay. Like from where I come from, you will see fatigue. You know, I am not, you know, Ayubai was born on Saturday, but I was not born last Saturday. So I have been around here and I was born in this city. I know when Baba would call for a meeting, the kind of turnout that would be out there. Of course, Mheshimiwa says that for a Wednesday, that was a very good turnout. In this particular country, where there is a lot of unemployment, the only thing that came out very clearly from that particular meeting was that there is fatigue. And the cost of living, for example, you cannot blame things as they are today and peg them on this particular administration. You honestly need a financial year to be able to make a sound political judgment. So, whereas it's okay to call on politicians that you promised this and you have not done, we also have to also look at things realistically. William Ruto saw in his PSs, these are the AI holders, these are the implementers, last Friday. So even when we talk about the Hustler Fund, for example, as a person, as a government technician, I will tell you one thing, that they will have to walk back. They will have to actually work out, because who signed on Hustler Fund going out? They had promised and they needed to run with it because it's a promise that had been made. So this government properly just started work on Monday.
Felix, let me take your account. I'll come to you, Abdullah. Yes, proceed, please. In regards to the promises that you make, I mean, look here, there seems to be a convergence in the sense that the government of the day, the president says we need a very objective opposition that will hold us to account. He has a proposal in seeking to create the office of the official opposition leader, and you have an opposition that says we are acting on that very same call from the president. Where is the dichotomy here, I mean, Felix, and who works for the people then, and how will this accountability process be beneficial to the Kenyan people?
You see, first, just to pick from where he left, President William Ruto did not start politics yesterday. So he knew very well what he was saying, that he will be able to deliver in 100 days. He's been the deputy president for 2 terms, that is 10 years, and he's come from elections again and again. So if he actually knew what he was saying and what he was able to deliver in those 100 days. So if it's not done, it's just not done. The government hasn't delivered, so we have to have the checks and balances, definitely. So a quick one on the position of the official opposition leader. This is just something you wake up and just say, these guys are just bringing back BBI in disguise. These are the same things that were in BBI. But
for example,
for the position of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, where Musalia is now, and now, again, now the position of the official opposition, you see? This is the same things that they were against when they were in BBI. Now they're coming back in disguise. Now, but then this creation of this office is just not what you wake up and say you'll create. You'll come to Parliament and knowing their numbers and how they are whipped, the Kenya Kwanza team, it will come to pass if it's something that they really want. But it will also be used to try and tame Baba. But if it comes to pass that it's there and there's the official opposition, we don't have a choice but to go with what now the Constitution will be saying, and Baba will occupy the office.
So you will support the creation of the office?
Not really. I don't support it. I believe in the streets. I believe in the streets.
But you agree with me as a
But when you make things too official, that now there's an office, there's what, there's a salary, these people will tame Baba, and I'm not for that.
Okay, but,
yes.
but as a member of parliament who sits in the only entity that can impeach the President of the Republic of Kenya, which has powers to declare war and state of emergency, I mean, how will the streets be a solution for the
streets are louder any day than any official office.
I mean, how will that constitute a proper policy framework within which the problems can be addressed in the streets? I mean,
no, but you are not born on, like he says, he was born on Saturday, but not last Saturday. I believe you too. You've seen what the streets have been able to do. The same streets advocated for this new constitution that we have today. The same streets. There has been a lot of public participations out here that has changed a lot.
Okay.
And those ones happened without this office. Okay. We've had the government being checked in when this office was not even there.
Okay, but then again, when you talk about the struggle to get the current constitution, there are independent offices and institutions that were born out of it, and you can use that avenue to address your problems, not the streets. So therefore, I wonder why, as a parliamentarian, you still have a focus on the streets to solve your problems, yet there are institutions that can address those particular problems.
I can easily tell you that an official office will not do much in checking this government.
Okay. Abdullah, I come to you because here is the extent with which it opens up the horizons. And an ODM MP on condition of anonymity yesterday said, and I quote him, "There are concerns holding two parallel feats together on the 12th of December would have sent a wrong signal to the international partners, and we have to strike a delicate balance because we do not want to be portrayed, or Kenya to be portrayed, as a failed state." I mean, is there, I mean, as an observer of also international politics, the intervention from the big brothers in Washington and London?
Of course, the big brother is always involved, but I want my brother not to allude to these people on this side. They are all Azimio or that. I mean, we came here this morning, we don't know each other, so alluding to categorizing people into sections is a bad faith. Secondly is, we talk about government. Ruto was a vice president or deputy president for 10 years. So he participated in every program that was, so there's nothing he doesn't know. Now, when you become the president, you become a president. He's the 5th president for a country that existed for the last 59 years. So there are programs and policies in place. You review them through the cabinet, through the parliament, through all other institutions. So whatever that a person needs and the mechanics of governance that he's going to come with is up to him to choose what he wants to do. The big brother is always involved, and you've just said Raila is going to Washington. There are people always, you know, behind the scene making the shots, whether it's the UK or the big five. China is involved in one way. Russia has interest in Kenya, United Kingdom, United States. But I think issue of going to the streets, if it was not crucial to these Kenyans, we would not have put it in the constitution. It's a way of putting pressure in government. And I want to read you a post by Ahmed Nasser. Yeah. He was an ardent supporter of Ruto, and he says, President William Ruto might find it hard to govern. He should devise an alternative way of dealing with Raila Odinga, not handshake, using the police. This guy has suicidal supporters. Well, that's his observation. Followers who can destabilize the country economy if allowed in the streets. Which way? Now, Raila is not, he's almost 80. He has been arrested, he has been tortured. He is an institution, okay? So once he goes to the streets, this is a country that is relying on informal sector. On a day that he tells them to come out, I will not call them suicidal supporters, but I'll call him, he has fanatical following. Okay, he existed for a while in Kenyan politics, so there's that number. The streets will put pressure on government. Okay. Because that will make international investors, hold back. So only way to talk to him is to make sure that they find a way of working. I'm sure there is no handshake, as Ruto has
ruled out already by
and also
government.
That.
Okay.
But I'm telling you, creating the office of the opposition, yes, or this or that, they need to consult. Ruto is employer number one. President Ruto is employer number one in this country. There is nothing he can do without consulting Kenyans.
Okay, and Jerry, talk to me about that consultation. I know you have a point. Please proceed.
I believe lawmaking is a process. and my good friend Jalango can attest to that. And that process involves or entails public participation. That law or that intended amendment has not even been tabled in Parliament. So to answer my good brother here, that would have been premeditated, that obviously public participation is going to be there. Another thing, there was a famous handshake that we all know about. So we cannot purport or think that President William Samoei Ruto participated fully on the second term of the presidency. So at the end of the day, we cannot blame him for the failures that were occasioned upon Kenyans by that government. And we are all aware that Baba was a key player during the second term of the former president's reign. And I feel that going to the streets, like you have said, there are other mechanisms that Azimio coalition can employ. But why do they not bother? We should ask the question why. Because obviously, it's like a dangling carrot, you know, that he throws to his supporters. He knows that is his only real grip to any power. So it is a bargaining chip to try to destabilize the government and try to get something out of it so that he can be called to the table and told, okay, what do you want so that you can stop calling your supporters to the streets? So at the end of the day, let us face the truth. I believe it is not rocket science, even to any layman, to know that going to the streets is the only grip to power that Raila Odinga has.
Okay, but given that he has participated in elections, I mean, and it's only through the ballot that power is attained from the people, that mandate handed over to those who govern over the others, and as enshrined in the sovereign will of the Kenyan people in Article 1 of the Constitution. I just wonder, when you say that, talking about this office, which is supported by the alliance that you do subscribe to what extent do you think it will help grow our democracy?
What I can say is power is consultative, and I believe in consultation, and I believe in charting a way forward that is going to empower every Kenyan. So even for Raila Odinga supporters, does calling them to the streets really impact on their economic situation? What can we do that is better than going to the streets? So that is what the Kenya Kwanza coalition is offering.
Okay.
And I would not want to preempt what will be tabled and when or if it will be tabled to the House. So I think let's wait for that so then we can have discussions around that.
Of course, and we look forward to that. Yes, Arnold, go ahead, please.
First of all, let me build it up from this particular point. That's number one. When the guys who were asked about these stories responded, say that the international community did. What is the international community? Even TZ is the international community. Even EAC and all the other guys. It's not just about the big brother. Sometimes we give those guys too much a position than they really deserve in our spaces. So that is a typical political non-answer. They just didn't want to face the truth. And this is the truth, Ayub, that there was fatigue. Raila, being a very experienced politician, knows one thing. He does what we call the deep stick test. He goes around, goes to Jivanji, wants to test and feel, how does it feel? He does a dry run. He's so good in doing rekes. He wasn't born yesterday. He does his work well. And what he did in Kamkunji, he realized that there might not be good momentum with it. And he wants it big. Also, let's remember this, that Raila Odinga does not hold monopoly on the tyranny of the streets, because then the other people on the other side will also organize. Because, you know, anyone can organize mass action. You just need some 50 dedicated people. Goons and idlers will just join in. It's not a very difficult thing. So, but Baba has actually done it with people who actually are willing, people who actually have stood for something else. But like those of us who have actually worked with Baba, like, for example, since I started voting in 2007, I've always voted for Baba. I would want to ask, this is a question, that we, Baba's supporters, for example, on this earth, it's always about reforms. It's always about struggles. When are we going to rest? When am I going to sit down and probably raise up something for my children? When am I going to work and do something? And sisi tutapumuzikia binguni. So long as we are supporting Baba, we have to be in the streets and then struggle. There is always something to reform and everything around that. When Mheshimiwa here says that the streets can achieve much more than Parliament, and that is then the problem I have with Parliament as it is today. And that is why I pray that the God in heaven, if he ever loves Kenya very much, he has to ensure that BBI CDF does not come back. Because without CDF, then Kenyans can see the things they are paying for. You see, the core function for Parliament is representation, and representation is a core thing. It is heavy. Then legislation, then oversight. Now, what we have in Parliament, a lot of them are actually CDF managers, because without CDF, a number of them could not. You realize when the Supreme Court had made that particular ruling, until the AG the other day made that particular, what I still feel will be challenged, is that a lot of them didn't know what to do next. They now had become motivational speakers. They spend a lot of time speaking in WhatsApp groups because they did not know what the core function of an MP is. So the role that we actually are pushing out there, he's spoken about somebody, and guys, I also think people in Kenya Kwanza are also taking us for a ride. When you talk about creating the office of the leader of official opposition, ordinarily, and I know somebody is going to say that the leader of minority is one person who might not even be elected with more than 40,000 votes, probably in this particular case is even a nominated one. But what then is the difference, other than it's in the name? Two, how do you touch on the structure of governance without going to a referendum? As in, Kenya Kwanza wants to take us back, and like Jango said rightly so, that these guys are bringing back BBI. And that would be so sad because they vehemently campaigned against it and many people believed in them. Now they want to go around and bring that up. You cannot bring that particular office they are talking about because it touches on the structure of governance without a referendum.
Thank you. Honorable Jalango, I'll give you the right of reply here and seek some clarity on what you said was also the organization of protest by the other end of the divide. Arnold, I'll come back and seek some clarity there. But he mentions the aspect about Parliament and the role it does play, and your response?
You see, unless you go to Parliament, you might not be able to know the main roles. First, Parliament is not the plenary that you see every day. A Parliament that is at work is the committees that are already running as we speak. What you see each and every single day is a plenary, and that is not Parliament at work. Parliament at work is a Parliament that is in the committees, and those ones are already up and running. And as we speak, it talks about CDF. Today, if you go to the constituency or you come to my phone here, there are thousands and thousands of messages just requesting for bursaries. Number one, the CDF only takes care of a few things, and it's well outlined. That would be bursary, security, education, and environment and sports. That's not the only work we do. There's a lot of things we do out here, and a lot of work that MPs do. Even without CDF itself, I was already working personally. I was already doing my job in Parliament representation and all, and oversight. I've been on ground throughout. So, and without CDF, things can go on. But the things and the programs that CDF supports out here is a lot. So I wish you become a member of Parliament soon and you join us so that you'll see that there's much more to CDF that meets the eye.
Okay, just hold on there, because one clarity, second clarity. After we get back from the break, Abdullahi and Jerry, I'll come to you as well, and also take a look at the feedback by from our viewers on the hashtag Daybreak at Citizen TV Kenya at Ayub Abdikadir, and afterwards, of course, we flip our attention to the two-day tour by President William Ruto of the Mulembe Nation. Yesterday, he was at the Kakamega State Lodge, flanked by the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi and other CSS, amongst the other whole host of government leaders who are in his company, and promising the revival of Mumia's sugar. But how sweet is that deal for Western Kenya? After the break here on the broadcast. Stay tuned.